Hey folks, Real Honesty with Charmitland. I'm Charmitland. This is a topic that I've had actually on paper for a while and I haven't gotten to. I got like a stack about that thick of just various papers with various show topics and everything written down. So I'm trying to get to those during the time, in between like pay-per-views and my Raw and SmackDown reviews, since honestly the WWE TV product is here and there. So I figured, why not cover some of these topics, since I don't really want to do too many retrospective pay-per-view series a month. I want to do like one a month. So this is going to be worst characters in WWE. Characters, gimmicks, whatever you want to call them. And I have them for other companies too, like Impact Wrestling, TNA, and also WCW. And this is pretty endless because there's been a lot of really bad characters in wrestling. And some of these are not necessarily talents that I have anything against. It's just the gimmicks, the characters they were given. So here we go. And I'm just going to cover some of them in a brief amount of time and then go from there. And I'm sure I'll end up doing part 2, 3 of this. It's not necessarily endless for all the companies, but this can probably go a few shows. And I also encourage you guys to leave yours in the comments should you think of any that you believe I should add. So, or just, put down your least favorites, and maybe I'll add them if I agree. So, Lord Tensai. Albert, who actually is a really good talented big man. I mean, he was a mid-card guy at best, did well in Japan. Lord Tensai character is ridiculous, because, of course, it wasn't Albert when he came back. No, it wasn't at all. Had the Japanese writing on his face. It was bad. I mean, he was built as a monster at first, and he got beat by Cena, and it was all downhill, and he ended up dressing, and they ended up having to dress and drag for some reason, and then teaming with Brodus Clay, who I like Brodus Clay, and that leads to the next one, Tons of Funk. Brodus and Albert should have been a much better team than they were. Brodus was a much better monster than he was as a babyface, not that he wasn't likable. He's a very well-spoken guy, as he has shown in various interviews that he's done outside of wrestling. But he had tons of funk. I mean, just for the comedic stuff, it was just ridiculous. And it's no wonder Brodus probably wanted to leave WWE and was probably happy when he got released. I mean, now he's in Impact. He seems to be doing well in other ventures. So good for him. But yeah, tons of funk was just really, really bad. I mean, it was bad. It was bad for everybody involved. BB. BB was a big-breasted paramedic. I'm sure that's what BB stood for. I don't quite know, but it was some decent-looking blonde with a big chest that was on TV for a bit. It was bad. It was really bad. I believe it was in 1999 when this happened. 98, 99. I think it was 99. And just why? I mean, why in the world did this happen? I have nothing against the woman. I just don't understand why this character existed besides her huge chest. I mean, what other reason was there? I mean, the gimmick pigeonholder is just being somebody that was objectified for her looks. And R-Truth as a face. Heel R-Truth was fantastic. Face R-Truth has just gotten to the point where I want to basically cave my own head in with a rock. He's not an unlikable guy as far as, his story and how he works hard for his family, and he's apparently now doing commentary on Main Event, which I was not aware was still existing. But, Truth as a face is just almost completely impossible to tolerate. I mean, just intolerable. You just can't deal with him. I mean, there's like vast majority of people can't. I can't. I loved heel R-Truth. I thought he was great. And then they ruined that whole thing when after he got attacked by Miz right after Survivor Series 2011, he had a 30-day wellness policy violation. Then they turned him back to a face. That was a mistake. It's a shame that happened because heel R-Truth would have been great to keep around for a while. But yeah, face R-Truth, no. Mantar, I mean, he was a big guy that had the horn like haircut. He ran at people, and he made one pay-per-view appearance in a match at the Royal Rumble in 1995. If he made any other appearance, like in that gimmick on a pay-per-view match, I don't remember. Mantar is a horrible character. God, 1995 was a rough year for WWE and WCW, and for ECW because they still had Sandman employed. But yeah, Mantar was just crap. Mantar just was not the guy, just the gimmick. The Godwins, because they were pig farmers, and it was all goofy Southern stuff, making fun of Southern talents, when Henry Godwin and Phineas Godwin were actually pretty good workers. It was nice that Hillbilly Jim got to be their manager for a bit. That was kind of cool. But his Hillbilly Jim was a pretty good character, but because he fit for the era that he was in. But yeah, the Godwins, good team, just bad gimmick. Made fun of Southern wrestling a lot. Rico, legit tough guy. Hopefully he can get past the current health issues that he's having. Depending on the reports you hear, he's had pretty severe ones. Hopefully he can get the funding for that. After leaving WWE, he became a Las Vegas cop again. I think he was a Las Vegas cop before, but Rico, for all the flamboyant stuff and everything, pretty good worker there, and it's just the gimmick was just bad. The gimmick was an albatross for him, despite how good of a worker he was. Heel Cole, I've covered Heel Cole before. The guy, he was unlikable as a face. They gave him even more of a reason to be unlikable by ruining the product with his constant blowing of The Miz and knocking of Jerry Lawler and all that. Apparently people like Cole backstage. I don't know why. I don't know how likable the guy he is or isn't, but Heel Cole's just dreadful. Just dreadful. It was dreadful. It's some of the worst TV ever, and the fact that he actually got a victory at WrestleMania via DQ or not, the fact that he's 1-0 at WrestleMania is just atrocious. Yeah, Heel Cole was awful. Led to some of the worst TV for a while. Heel JR. This was one where it's like in '96 they tried a brief heel run where he kind of ripped on WWE and the fans cheered, and then he introduced fake Diesel and Razor. That didn't work. And then JR tried to be heel in late 98, early 99 for a bit. Having an announcer's table in front of the one that Cole and Lawler, I believe, had. And he had Dr. Death Steve Williams with him. That was not good. It's not that JR couldn't be effective in any role you give him, but just no one wanted to boo JR. So it was just a bad idea. The Red Rooster, because Terry Taylor's a really good worker, and putting him in that gimmick and making him fashion his hair into the top of a chicken. Come on, guys, come on. Top of a rooster or chicken. It's just ridiculous. No wonder he could never escape that gimmick, even when he went back to WCW and just did the God. He had some pretty good gimmicks, even if the Tailor-Made Man was essentially the $1 Million Man ripped off. Terry Taylor was a really good worker, but just the Red Rooster was just bad. Just no wonder. No wonder that gimmick ruined him. It was horrible. And now, speaking of bad 80s gimmicks that Vince put on talented wrestlers, Dusty Rhodes with the polka dots. I love Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty Rhodes made the gimmick work, to his credit, but you're looking at one of the best workers, best talents in the late 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. And he was there from just the later part of 89 through the early part of 91. And don't get me wrong, Dusty Rhodes made it work, but it's just so sad to see it. Not something that was befitting of his great status. Though he did the best he could with it, but God, I just still scratch my head at it. Reverend Devon, because he said, "Oh, my brother, testify." That's pretty much, I think, the reason why Vince made the gimmick. Then Deacon Batista, who carried, a donation box with a chain around his neck, and carried the donation box because, stealing donations is apparently something that happens often. Reverend Devon, no wonder the gimmick was abandoned within 6 months, and he went back to Raw and reunited with Bubba Ray at Survivor Series 2002 because, yeah, Reverend Devon that didn't get over at all. Naked Midian. I talked about the Godwins before. Phineas Godwin, after the whole Godwins thing went away and after Southern Justice ended because Henry Godwin suffered a neck injury, Phineas became Midian and the Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness, and then after that disbanded, he became Naked Midian, where, he would wear flesh-colored tights, but he would have a fanny pack around his dick, and he would just run why? I mean, why? How did somebody think that would get over? How? I mean, the guy, Dennis Knight. I mean, he was never the best worker in the world, but I mean, he deserved way better than that for the years he put into WWE. And Naked Midian was just bad. I don't know who came up with that idea, but whoever did should have been suspended for 6 months. I mean, that was just terrible. And in fact, it was probably Vince that greenlit the idea, and Vince isn't going to suspend himself. But God, Naked Midian was horrible. Planet Stasiak, Sean Stasiak, eventually, he was made into a joke because he was meat in WWE before, left to go to WCW, and got over pretty well even in the dying days of WCW, and then they turned him into a joke, running into stuff, being clumsy, hitting walls, and then he would start speaking in rhyming riddles and whatever, and be Planet Stasiak, and had a weird sci-fi-ish theme, and was like out there in outer space. He like had finally completely lost it. Like every fiber of like, knowledge, like, basic knowledge and whatever had just fried, and he just was suddenly out there. Planet Stasiak. It's bad about Sean Stasiak because the guy actually was pretty good. He wasn't great, but I mean, I don't think he was more than 30 at that point. So I think he's still in his mid-40s. I think if I'm right, I think he was born in 1970. I don't really remember, but all I know is that he could have been used a whole lot better. And Planet Stasiak, I mean, it was funny, but not great. And Made in the USA, Lex Luger. Okay, this one might be a little more personal for me, but I've never cared for Lex Luger. He was a much better heel because he was basically a dick to a lot of people. Even though some people praise him, that's fine. There were people in the business that knew him. I don't know the guy, obviously. A lot of fans that may talk about him and other characters don't really know the wrestlers. But I'm just basing it on what I observed on TV. I never believed Luger as a babyface. I never believed that he cared about the fans. The whole Made in the USA thing, trying to make him the next Hulk Hogan, as much as I knock Hulk Hogan for the racism and all that stuff and everything. Hogan had charisma. A lot of charisma. And could talk people into the building. Whether he borrowed it from Superstar Billy Graham and maybe even influence from Dusty Rhodes and stuff like that. Especially Superstar Billy Graham, though. Whether or not he borrowed from people, and he obviously did, it worked, and Hogan had the charisma. Luger never did. He never made that connection with the audience, and the audience just did not care. And Made in the USA Lex Luger is proof that he just wasn't going to get over. He just wasn't going to. It's like they halted the push at SummerSlam 93, and he got the count-out win, and then they were going to have him have a chase, and then that didn't work because the fans turned on him so quickly. Because no one believed it. No one wanted Luger to be the champion. Vince ended up going with Bret Hart, which he should have done before, because Lex Luger just wasn't any good. He's a garbage wrestler who actually could have some good matches with the right guys, but they were always guys better than him. He just never seemed to care about having the best match. He just never seemed to care about having the best match. He never seemed to care about performing at a high level. I just described Roman Reigns at times. I know Reigns, a lot of it's uncreative, but I'm sorry. I think Reigns is Samoan Lex Luger. But Reigns is not on here because Reigns may be on here later down the road in about 5 years or something like that, if and when this whole push doesn't work for him, because they're going to keep doing it. They're going to make a main event Mania 34, which is going to be 4 straight Mania main events. And you thought Hogan main eventing Mania all that time was bad. Shit, even Cena didn't main event that many Manias in a row. Wait. 27, 28, 29. No. He hasn't main event that many Manias in a row. Anyway, Made in the USA Lex Luger, though, bad. Just absolutely bad. The Sultan, because it was Rikishi trying to play somebody that was, from the Sultan country or wherever. Whether he had Iron Sheik as his manager and Bob Backlund was his consultant, he had a mask on him, and Rikishi was a better worker before he split and became the Usos. But the Sultan was just a bad gimmick that did not work at all. Corporate Kane, I like Kane. I didn't want to see the big red monster in dress slacks. Just why? Why? Why was it? Him being the corporate type and like being the politician type, which now he's parlaying into politics, and hopefully he gets elected. Hopefully he does. but I believe in Tennessee, if I remember right. But yeah, Kane, Corporate Kane, not good. Not good at all. Though he seemed to have fun with it. Los Matadors, because whether they were Primo and Epico, Los Matadors, the Shining Stars, whatever, they're boring. Los Matadors was clearly the worst because it was like a flamboyant Zorro gimmick, only without any ability, any ability to ever get over. And it's not that they weren't talented. It's not that they aren't talented. But you give them that, and then you give them a short guy as, El Torito as their little mascot and their little, midget bull that jumps around. Horrible. Why? I mean, who thought that would get over? Oh, right, it didn't. And then Fandango with the ballroom gimmick. Look, I like Fandango. I think Fandango's great, but just no. And his partner, by the way, the brunette that was his dance partner before Summer Rae came along, was a lot hotter than Summer Rae. I wish they would have kept that lady, but whatever. I don't know why they didn't. Anyway, that's going to be the first part of my worst gimmicks slash characters in WWE. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are some of your worst characters, gimmicks in WWE history? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link is in the description. Spend real honesty with John Mifflin. I'm John Mifflin. I will see you soon.